good afternoon, everyone. I'm very, very happy and very honored to co-host this side event on rule of law in Poland with a special focus on public prosecutor's office and misuse of the mandate of the public prosecutor's office in Poland in recent years. My name is Krzysztof Śmiszek. I'm a member of the Polish Parliament and a member of the Socialist and Greens group here in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Today's meeting is an extremely important meeting because of many facts. In the light of the destruction of the rule of law in Poland, the Public Prosecutor's Office seems to be one of the crucial elements of dismantling the rule of law in principle in my country. I'm very happy to welcome Marcin Mycielski from Open Dialogue Foundation, as well as Maciej Ferek, judge from the Regional Court in Kraków, as well as Piotr Osiecki, entrepreneur from Poland, together with his lawyer. So, just a few words of introduction. Since 2015, Poland is facing unprecedented attack on the fundamental principles and pillars of the modern democratic state, which is rule of law, division of powers, independence of courts and judges, silencing political opposition, or attack on media freedom. One of the most visible element of the plan of the ruling party, which is Law and Justice, Law and Justice is to engage public institutions previously taken over by the ruling majority, legally or not, to use their mandates, the mandates of these public institutions, to dismantle the legal order in my country, in our country, in Poland. The prosecutor office is being used not only to threaten the political opposition, but mostly and mainly to create an atmosphere of threat. The signal, which is very clear for anyone who criticized the ruling party, Law and Justice. The more vocal you are, the more you are exposed to the potential action of the public prosecutor office. Right after the Law and Justice took over the rules in 2015, they merged the position of the Prosecutor General and the Minister of Justice. So here in Poland we have a personal union of those two very important mandates. That means that this personal union serves only to the benefits and interests of the ruling majority. Well, you will hear today many examples of how the Public Prosecutor's Office is being used to threaten not only the political opposition, but also activists, artists, regular business people or regular citizens not to be vocal about their needs, their opinion, their critical points of view. So today you will hear a judge, today you will hear an activist, and today you will hear a businessman who experienced what it means to live in Poland in 2022 under the rules of Law and Justice, which uses the prosecutor's office to threaten, to close, to silence the free debate in our country, to silence the critical voices of those who do not agree with what the Law and Justice is doing with our country. So I pass the voice to Marcin Mycielski from Open Dialogue Foundation, which is the co-host of this site event.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof. Thank you for this introduction, and thank you for hosting us here today. So welcome everyone on behalf of the Open Dialogue Foundation. I actually haven't prepared like a proper speech. I drove here directly from Poland, where I drove from Ukraine, from Eastern Ukraine. We just came back directly from a humanitarian mission. We actually went to Ukraine to deliver humanitarian aid to citizens, but also support the military, which is the main thing we do since February. And we support them in their struggle against Vladimir Putin. Why am I saying about that? Because I'm of course far from comparing Russia to Poland. Of course, we still have in Poland more or less functioning democracy. We don't attack other states, we don't murder people. But having said that, there are some parallels, there are some mechanisms which are transplanted from authoritarian regimes like Russia. And these mechanisms serve to subjugate the state, the people, to exert control, to quash dissent, by abusing the institutions created to safeguard the rule of law, like the judiciary and the public prosecution service. And that's why we gathered here today, so that you can hear firsthand, not just from experts, but also from the victims themselves, as Krzysztof pointed out. And on the tables you will find our latest report on the prosecution service, which documents over 50 abuses of the public prosecutor's office and describes many of the cases that actually we'll be discussing here today. So I would like to, once again welcome our distinguished guests. We are missing one person who will join us any second, activist Jakub Kocjan. The other guests already were introduced by Krzysztof. One last word before I pass the floor, for now to Krzysztof before our moderator joins us. A bit of news I wanted to share with you just from last night. So the president of Poland's leading association of entrepreneurs, Maciej Wituski, was arrested, seemingly on trumped-up charges, and clearly the idea was to exert a chilling effect on business in Poland. So I'm actually even more grateful to have Mr. Czeszkiewicz with us, who is a prime example of how far our authorities go to control the free market, to quash business opposition and basically build their mafia state. We can say it out loud. So thank you again for joining us, and Krzysztof, I give the floor back to you.
Thank you, Marcin. And the first speaker will be Maciej Ferek, who is a judge from Regional Court in Krakow, who is an actual victim of the political and legal changes which took place in Poland in the last few years. So Maciej Ferek is a judge who was suspended because of his normal activity as a judge. He was just issuing judges according in line with the Constitution, in line with the European Union law, and because of his sticking to the constitutional principles, he was suspended by the newly created disciplinary chamber within the Supreme Court, which was declared, and these are the important words here in Strasbourg in the Council of Europe, where the court, the chamber was declared by the Luxembourg European Court of Justice, but also by the European Court of Human Rights here in Strasbourg as illegal. So, Maciej, the floor is yours, and please say a few words about your situation now. Where are you now with your cases? But also, we would be very, very happy to hear your opinion about the legal environment that Polish judges are in for the time being, and how it is to be a Polish judge in Poland in 2022.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the floor. There are two countries in the European Union that have the biggest problems with the rule of law. This is Hungary and Poland. And the difference between Hungary and Poland is that in Poland the ruling party didn't gain the majority to change the constitution in 2015. So what do you do to take over the other powers when you have the government, the Parliament. First, you take over the Constitutional Tribunal, then you take the Prosecutor office. We had the division. These were two persons. One person was Prosecutor General, the other person was Minister of Justice. The ruling party in 2016, as I remember well, joined both of the positions, and we have one person who is both Minister of Justice and Prosecutor General. And what do you do then? Then you have to take over the courts. And this is the problem for the ruling party, because the Polish judges did not surrender. We are struggling. It has been already 4 years that we are fighting for the rule of law in Poland. I have to explain to you. Our president, the president of Republic, appoints judge, but the judge is the candidate is submitted by our national Council of Judiciary, and this is the body that is described in our constitution. And our constitution says that 15 members of the NCJ, these are judges appointed by the judges. The ruling party changed the law, and in 2018, these 15 members are elected by the Parliament. So each judge appointed by the President since 2018 is appointed in an illegal procedure. We call them neo-judges. Neo like something new that is not a real judge. And this is how my story begins. Because it's not only me. These are also other judges. Now we are four last persons, four persons who are still let's call suspended. In July 2021, the European Court of Justice issued two verdicts that forbids to punish judges for questioning, for checking in their resolutions or in their verdicts other judges, if they are appointed illegally or legally. Because the problem started in 2018, then the judges started to check in if another person from another panel is a legally appointed judge or not. What did the ruling party, how did they solve the situation from their point of view? In 2020, they applied, we call it a muzzle law. This is a law that forbids such a checking, that you cannot check if another person is legally appointed judge or not. And there are only two punishments for such an offense. This is transfer to another city, to another court, or you can be only expelled from the position. We have July 2021. In October 2021, these were even not verdicts. These were just two rulings in which I checked if another person appointed as a judge after 2018 was a legally appointed judge or not. And that was enough. One day later, I was suspended by the president of the court on the basis of administrative decision, and later by the disciplinary chamber that is not a court. And we have it confirmed, both the European tribunals, the European Commission, the Venice Commission, our Supreme Court, all the bodies confirmed that the disciplinary chamber was not a court in the reference to Article 6 of the Convention. I was suspended, I am suspended illegally, but the fact is that I cannot work. I'm suspended on the basis of if I speak too long, please interrupt me. On the basis of an article that allows the Minister of Justice or the President to suspend a judge if he is caught while committing intentional crime and he is caught red-handed. My only crime is that I used in my two resolutions our constitution and the verdicts of the European Court of Justice and the European Court of Human Rights. The problem is that the situation was supposed to be solved under the pressure of the European Parliament and here this European Assembly of Parliamentary Assembly, but it is not. In July 2022, we have a new disciplinary chamber that has now only a new name. This is just we have a new brand. The body is still the same and is still not a court according to Article 6 of the Convention. Why? Because all the judges, these are 11 judges, they are appointed by, not under the law, but by the President of Republic with the Prime Minister. So they are appointed, they are picked. What they did, they picked from this, I think there are about 90 judges in the Supreme Court, and they picked 11 names, and now this is how was the new chamber of personal responsibility. This is now how it's called. Professional responsibility, thank you, is called. 6 of that people are neo-judges, so people who are not judges appointed in a legal procedure. 3 of them are judges who are appointed in a legal procedure but have no problem to rule, to sit in a panel and to judge with the other neo-judges. And now we have only 2 left that are 2 legally appointed judges. And I am suspended because of questioning illegally appointed judge. And what happens? On the 15th of September, this new chamber, I was supposed to have a hearing in my case. And my case, in my situation, the person who in the panel, the judge who is in the panel, is also a neo-judge. So a neo-judge is supposed to rule in my case if I questioned a neo-judge legally or illegally. So this is a ruling in their own case. The only difference is now that when I was being suspended by the disciplinary chamber, was that there was no hearing. I had a call from the journalist, and he asked me, Judge Ferek, what would you say about your suspension? I'm telling him, but Mr. Journalist, I don't know anything about my suspension. And he told me, yes, there was a session today in the morning, and now we have an information on the website of the Supreme Court that you are suspended and your salary is cut by half. So the situation of Polish judges is worse than the situation of the criminals, because if there is a hearing considering a criminal, he's informed, his defenders. I have 2 defenders who are the presidents of the chambers of the Supreme Court, and 1 attorney. None of them was informed about the session, me either. So this is how it looks. And the problem is also the chilling effect, because we are the examples. We, the 4 judges, we are the examples for the others from the ruling party point of view. Don't go this way. And because if you go this way, you can lose your job, or you can be at least it. And the chilling effect works. Each month because my salary is cut by half, so each month I sue my court for the other half, and I can see the chilling effect. I can see that the judges are afraid to touch the case. They are doing everything not to rule. They send the files to another court. And now my situation is that I have no files. My salary is cut by half. Last 2 weeks ago, the key lock to my room was changed, so I cannot even enter my room. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ferry, thank you so much for this contribution. I'm pretty sure that at the end of this event there will be plenty of questions, like how it is to be in the spotlight of the as a judge of the ruling majority. But now we switch to Mr. Piotr Osiecki, a person from a completely different field of activities. He's not a judge, he's not a politician, he's not a lawyer, he's not an activist, he's just a businessman, quite successful businessman, or he used to be a quite successful businessman. And my impression is, Piotr, that you had this bad luck that your path crossed with the path of the ruling party, and all your troubles started. So please, the floor is yours, and please tell us what is your situation now, and how do you assess the involvement of the Polish Prosecutor Office in your case? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for having this chance to speak and describe my case, which I believe you will find quite interesting. Again, my name is Piotr Osiecki. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business person working in the investment industry. I'm a finance person. I started my company, Altus TFI. TFI is an asset management business. So I started Altus TFI in the year 2008, and me and my team, we successfully created a company from zero to 18 billion zlotys under management. So very successful company, the largest, the biggest asset manager in Central Eastern Europe, privately owned by me and my team. The company that went public is listed on the stock exchange, and the company again went from zero market value to almost 1 billion zlotys market value, pure startup of the me and my team, private investment individuals. And as Krzysztof said, yes, our business crossed with the businesses of state-owned financial enterprises, because from the year 2015 there is, I would say, like a crusade against private ownership and private investments within financial sector, and especially if you have a business privately owned in financial sector in Poland, you are unwanted, unliked, or chased. As I said, I had a very successful business. We had a number of international clients, and including one of the biggest, the largest sovereign fund in the world, where we were managing over €1 billion. We had more than 1 billion euros of one of the largest sovereign fund under management. As I said, very successful company, fully transparent, listed on the stock exchange. And then one of the financial scandals blew up in Poland. This is called the Gerbek affair, and my company had very little business with this company, but unfortunately, politicians from the ruling party were involved in this affair, entrepreneur, and scapegoat was needed. So I was the one that was picked as a perfect scapegoat because I'm investment individual, private entrepreneur, independent from the state, and having business crossing the lines with the state-owned competitors from the same industry. So I was arrested in end of August 2018 on the charge that me acting in the best interest of my clients, investment funds, I sold the shares of a company that was part of our investment portfolio, allegedly at too high price. So I was charged that me doing my everyday business for what I'm basically remunerated, and that my job is to buy shares of different companies and sell them at the higher price later. So this is what I did, and I was charged that I caused the damage allegedly to the buyer by acting in the best interest of my funds. This is crazy, as you can imagine, but this is the charge that I have today. I'm charged. I'm not indicted, and I mean, this is absolutely crazy. This was actually very tiny, very small part, less than 1% of our portfolio, so very little transaction, but I was perfect scapegoat because I was wealthy individual. And again, the plan was to take over my business. So I was arrested. Two weeks later, my family and my partners got the special offer that if I agree to sell the shares of my company to another large state-owned bank, I shall be treated better and leave the temporary custody. Obviously, we refused that. And so I spent 3 months in prison. Then I was released by regional court in Warsaw. But I was arrested again for the same thing. No extra charges, nothing new, no new information. I was again arrested 2 months later by neo-judges, as was explained before. Again spent next 3 months in prison. Again released by Warsaw Regional Court. Again arrested for the third time, the same thing, and then spent additional 10 months in prison. Altogether, in the period of 2 years, I spent 16 months in prison, being arrested 3 times for the same thing, without no new charges, without no new circumstances, nothing. I guess today, prosecution knows that the case is basically fake, that there is sort of nothing against me. But as you can imagine, my company was totally destroyed. The market capitalization, the market value went down from 800 million zlotys to 40 million zlotys. We lost most of our clients. Now we are getting them back because we were very good at what we are doing. We had superior results. We were better than our competition, especially the state-owned competition. But we sort of did not fit in the picture of new economy in the Polish environment. It's probably interesting to mention that at the very beginning there was a record bail that was offered for me, so there was record bail of 108 million zlotys. Nevertheless, it was not enough, and at the same time I was in prison for 3 months, and prosecution kept this record bail of 108 million zlotys that was offered by 26 business people that basically knew me. This a little bit rings the bell with the case that was mentioned right before. Yesterday in Poland, 2 people were arrested from the business environment. Again, probably dodgy case, but not commenting on the case. The thing is that this is the way how business people and entrepreneurs are treated. There is a lot of extortion, there is a lot of sort of Russian-style racketeering, and people are simply afraid to run their businesses and to compete, especially with state-owned enterprises. In my case, there's a number of abuse of law situations, misuse of law, and we obviously, together with my lawyer, we are determined to, and we keep on fighting to, so the truth comes out, and we will not leave this case as it is. And as I'm often saying, I'm proud of my charges, because I'm proud that I have charges that I acted in the interest of my clients and my funds, and I still cannot understand, and that no one is able to explain it to me, how investment professional can be charged for doing his job. As you can imagine, right now my case is in the middle of nowhere. Nothing is happening, but the business has been destroyed and devastated. And but sort of we keep on pushing further, and my determination is off limits to tell about this case, to present this, and I guess the sentence rule of law in this respect is basically a joke. There is no such a thing. I guess our time is limited. I'm happy to answer questions should you have later on. Thank you.
Okay, so, thank you, Piotr, for the testimony, and I'll now give the floor to Jakub Kocjan from Akcja Demokracja, which is a great and extremely active NGO in Poland, which is mobilizing Polish society to fight for freedom and basic fundamental rights. Jakub, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor to can share my experience or sometimes here. Thank you for your inspiring stories. And firstly, sorry for being late. Deutsche Bank has its own problems and challenges. I have worked on the topic of rule of law for 5 years now, and we as activists in a very special way feel this constitutional crisis on our personal lives, but also we can see this chilling effect in practice. And I think it is one of the most important things when we are talking about Polish crisis of rule of law, that even if some measures are not completed, even if some procedures are only for some people, the main purpose, the main objective is to create this chilling effect. It is both of the levels of police, especially for activists. It is on the level of prosecutor's office. I would like to add to this important story of overtaking the courts, that also the general attorney is the Minister of Justice, so the leader of the most radical, probably, party in the governing coalition. And it is not only a formality, as in some countries. It means that in very specific cases, for example, the cases which affect NGOs or affect politicians, the Minister of Justice, who is the Attorney General at the same time, can influence every proceeding in our country, and he uses of this possibility, which is granted only due to the bill, not constitution. I would like to share a few thoughts about one case which will be seen by Supreme Court or no Supreme Court in 1 week, 20th October this year. The case of Judge Żurek, who is also the judge from Krakow, Judge Żurek, and who was the spokesperson of the old legal National Council of Judiciary. After years of repressions, I believe that he has more than 25 disciplinary proceedings against him now. He won in the European Court of Justice one of his cases, but what is important now here, the case now will be in Supreme Court. The case is about neo-judges and the status of these neo-judges, so people elected with participation of a new National Council of Judiciary, elected of politicians against the Constitution. And the result of European Court of Justice judgment was, of course, that Supreme Court has to decide basing on this, on some indicators, whether no judges are judges, whether no judges in Supreme Court who decide, for example, about the validity of election process are judges. There is a grave danger, and it will probably will happen, that the neo-judges will be deciding this case. Neo-judges will decide in Polish Supreme Court whether neo-judges are judges. It's the level of absurd which will be, which is in Poland quite normal thing now, I'm afraid. But what is even more important, it is not a coincidence, it is the result of changing the former bench, the former elected bench for this case. We meet in a very specific time. One of the most important issues is, of course, the dramatic war in Ukraine by Russia. And we, as Polish non-governmental organizations, as Polish society, are really concerned that Polish government will use this time, will use the focus on Ukraine to continue destroying our rule of law. And this is the reason why I would like to ask our guests one more time. What do you believe is the future of rule of law in this context of war in Ukraine and the government wanting to continue deteriorating rule of law in Poland?
Thank you. The invasion began on the 24th of February, and on the 25th of February, so the next day, another judge from my court was suspended. So maybe this is the answer for your question. On the 10th of March 2022, our constitutional tribunal, so-called constitutional tribunal, issued a verdict that Article 6 of the Convention of Human Rights and is not consistent with our constitution. So the result is now that our government does not want to perform any verdict of the European Court of Human Rights concerning courts. It's obvious that what we can hear, of course, this is the propaganda that, I mean, the rule of law, you cannot, it's not something that you can bargain, or you can buy or you can sell, or you can buy partially or not. What our governing party is trying to do is trying to bargain that we are the supporters of Ukraine. We are the border country, so we need the support also from the European organization. But the truth is that this is not the government that helped the Ukrainians. These are the Polish people, NGOs, the local governments. I don't know, maybe from the military point of view our government does provide some help. I'm not in that topic, but I also hear on the TV that they get refunds from the US, like for instance recently $2,050 million for the military help for Ukraine. So this is not, we don't have any refugee camp. We don't have any refugee camp while we had 2.5 million refugees in Poland. And it was just that within 2 weeks we had 1 million people, new people, and no refugee camp. Why? Because our societies, we organized ourselves and we helped the people. So what I want to say is that you cannot mix these two things. One thing is the war in Ukraine and the help of Polish people, and the other thing is rule of law. And without rule of law, in Poland, we may have the same situation in Poland like we have in Russia now. So that's the danger. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Piotr.
I guess not to repeat what was said. I think simply it's vital to understand that rule of law cannot be trade-off for anything else. Yeah, one can say, okay, let's forget the rule of law in Poland because Poland is supporting Ukraine and supporting Ukraine in the fight against Putin and Russia. And it's I guess rule of law is just absolute value, and a member state of the European Union has to be governed by the letter of rule of law, and this cannot be traded for anything, and never. Then the situation will get only worse. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure that on this topic there can be a lot of questions. So if everybody who have a question can raise their hand, because we have a few minutes, and we can then proceed with questions both for guests, member of parliament. Yes. Okay. So yes, firstly and second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentations, and I'm very glad you came here to tell us and to give us this booklet with all the cases in it. I'm a rapporteur on a report on the harassment of anti-choice harassment in the area of abortion, and I've been to Poland on this visit, and I saw that one of the cases in the book is the cases for Women's March, and I know that tomorrow there will be another woman from the Dream Team will be on trial again. But my question is, what I heard then is that in this cases of the prosecution, other jurists plays a rather important role. And if I don't know if this in particular in cases related to abortion, or they have their fingers everywhere. And what to do about it?
Thank you for this question, and this is an extremely important question, which shows that, that the case you described, that the public prosecutor is so much involved in so-called ideological cases or controversial cases, which are not controversial from the human rights point of view, but in the view of the ruling party. The involvement is extremely deep. and the collaboration, the symbiosis between the radical right-wing groups and public institutions like Ministry of Justice, like the Prosecutor General, is extremely visible. Just to let you know, and probably you've seen that when you were in Poland, that Ordo Iuris, which is a fundamentalist but private organization, is able to convince the Prosecutor General to disseminate the instructions how to proceed with illegal abortion cases. So they disseminated this instruction to all the prosecutor offices all over Poland. So, well, I mean, this is only an example, but you know what Piotr said, what Judge Felix said. I mean, the Ministry of Justice became a place where the orchestrated strategy is being planned and organized in terms of how to fight against those business people who are not in line with the government, how to act against the judges who are not acting in line with the ruling majority, how to act against activists or just ordinary people, women who are not following the ideology of the ruling party. So, well, what we see is that prosecutors' offices, I mean, prosecutors are being instrumentalized, are being used to simply counteract all the actions which are not in line with the expectations of the authorities, and that's it. And I as a politician, but also as a lawyer, I don't feel safe in the country where you cannot count on the public prosecutor. I mean, the public prosecutor should be an element of the safety of the national safety system. But today, I mean, I cannot see a prosecutor as an element of the national safety system. It's an element, instrument used against those who are just critical towards the majority. And it does not matter whether this is a businessman, whether this is a judge, whether this is an average woman who just wants to her freedoms and rights being exercised. So this is the problem, and I think that we are living now in a legal swamp in Poland, taking into account how many judges are not legal judges, how many verdicts they issued. They issued more than 1 million verdicts since 2018. That means that 1 million verdicts can be questioned. Verdicts in terms of whatever, I mean, criminal cases, civil cases, labor court cases. So this is a problem, and getting out of this legal swamp will take years to make this democracy healthy.
The last question.
Okay.
That was the question.
I just had a question. It's more of a general question. But do you think that with Orban's closeness and affinity with Putin, that now the focus since the start of the war is more on Hungary, and like Poland is not that much talked about, and the problem with the rule of law? And I feel like before the start of the war, they were more like bundled up together. And like, how do you think what should be done so that Poland stays in the spotlight?
Referring to Ordo Iuris, Andrzej Stępkowski is a neo-judge of the Supreme Court, and he is also a founder, one of the founders of Ordo Iuris in Poland. So this is also the answer for your question, how it is all mixed. And Andrzej Stępkowski is also the basis of the case of Waldemar Żurek that was mentioned today, that is in which the ECJ last year, it has already been 1 year ago, ruled that a person who was established as a judge, appointed as a judge in an illegal procedure is not a judge. And that case referred to Andrzej Stępkowski. This case returned to our Supreme Court because it was a preliminary ruling, and now we have in the panel 4 neo-judges and 3 judges to rule if Andrzej Stępkowski is a judge or is not, or any other neo-judge. And the problem is that this is fundamentally structural problem, because this is a 7-person panel. So it will be a legal rule for all other Supreme Court panels. I have to end. Thank you.
Yes, only to finish, I'm sorry, because we have to give the help for the next session. The one sentence for this very important question. I believe that now everybody can be an ambassador of our Polish issue. The most important thing is to press European Commission to go even further with the cases in European Court of Justice, and to convince people from all the countries and the European institutions that the rule of law is the condition not only of European practice funding, but it is a condition of maintaining our European values, and not and the war on Ukraine should only be a spur for us all to go further with rule of law conditions, because it will be also very important for Ukraine to have strong ally in European Union as Poland, but we can be only a strong ally for Ukrainian case if we are the country which obeys European treaties and rule of law. Thank you very much for your participation. I'm afraid we do not have more, but definitely after it we are open for all the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for participation, and thank you for involvement. Thank you.
Not European Court, human rights court, but the Żurek tutaj. Tak, Żurek ma powiedział, on powiedział European Court, nie wiadomo co. Ale trzeba to zrozumieć i tak dalej. Oprócz tego ważna sprawa tego, co tu mam w październiku, jak wiemy, w marcu w tym roku jest w tej chwili sekretarz generalny
Please feel free to take the reports with you.